Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's really cool being on set in the last day of, or the last week, I should say,
Yes.
of the last episode. What are you guys feeling now as you've been through this whole season?
Oh man, relief. No, it's always bittersweet. It is. You know, I think it's been a great season. It's been a very fast season. We've block shot throughout this whole season, so we were pretty much doing 2 episodes at a time, which is kind of crazy.
That's crazy.
We got our season finished much quicker this way,
right?
But it does kind of don't remember much,
right?
Like, of the last 4 months. So it's been a whirlwind, but it's been lovely, and it's been really fun. I think this is the strongest season, yeah, it'll be. I'm excited to get the show out there and let the audience see it and see how they react.
Well, I love that her story starts out really complicated because you know she's dealing with both the potential case that maybe she screwed up, maybe she didn't.
That's right.
And coming out of early kind of mat leave.
Yeah. No, Michelle, like right off the bat, you see Michelle dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. Like season 4 ended with Michelle essentially knocking on Adam's door, announcing that she was pregnant.
Right.
And then cut to, I think it's a year later, and no, it has to be longer than a year. But her and Adam have a new home. They're moving forward in their relationship, and there's a brand new baby, and they're sort of in domestic family bliss. And then Michelle finds out that she could have really screwed up the case and put an innocent man in jail, and that threatens her reputation, and that's something that Michelle can't deal with, so she decides to leave, have her mat leave and her reputation, and then she needs to deal with the completely crazy mix of dealing with work and being a mom, which is a hard balance.
And especially because it's such different worlds of the dark world sometimes of the IB versus home life.
And Michelle, like her job often puts her in very dangerous situations, and I think that there's always sort of been this fearlessness with Michelle, but now that she is not just thinking about herself, she has her child to think of. I think that is always playing in the back of her mind, and we definitely see that throughout the whole, throughout all of season 5. We see the struggles and the difficulties for her, sort of making the decisions to be at work, and the guilt and the exhaustion and all of it. Yeah. How
do you think it changes her? Being a parent, I mean.
Yeah, I think it's definitely. I think it's softened her a little bit. Like she's a little bit softer. I think it's very subtle. It's like subtle little things, but I've definitely tried to sort of keep it throughout the whole season, because I think it's important to see. Like I think she just, again, it's this knowing that she's putting her life on the line often, and the struggles, and the maybe she's a little bit more cautious, a tiny bit, a pinch. She's definitely a lot more tired.
Right.
I was saying this before, but it's my sister-in-law has 2 children, and she went back to work this year, and she wanted me to. She's like, just remember how difficult it is. It's difficult, and you're always tired, and you're always like you're running late, and you're always a mess. And, this is television, so Michelle somehow magically always does have her makeup done and beautiful clothes on.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure that was at least always in the back of my brain, so hopefully it translates a little bit that there's a lot going on in her life. Right. Yeah.
Do you think do you think it would change how she views some of the cases and things as well?
Yeah, I do. I think that it does. It's interesting. I think without me even realizing it, like Michelle has always sort of played the bad cop, whereas Toby is the good cop in situations, right? And especially in interrogation scenes. Yeah. And I found myself this year, like, especially with the female bad guys, I'm always wanting to sort of like be a little bit more gentle with them,
Right.
a little bit more like relatable, a little bit more, a little bit softer, not quite so, not quite so much the bad cop.
That's cool. Yeah. So she's developed basically, and we'll see where that takes her maybe too.
Exactly.
That's cool.
She's definitely still got her hard edge, but I think she has softer moments now.
So, I mean, how do you think this has also affected her relationship with Toby? Because obviously everyone's lives are changing, and in this season it's really kind of a bit more homey. I was saying to some of the other folks that, you know, everyone's kind of settled down, even if Oz is kind of having some issues here and there.
Right.
But how is that relationship changing?
You know, the Toby and Michelle relationship, I think it just continues to grow, really. The friendship is developing, the trust has developed over the last few seasons, and now it's sort of like they have a very good thing going. They have a wonderful friendship, I think. They have a wonderful working relationship, and what we'll see a lot in season 5 is, you know, Michelle always has Toby's back, and that, you know, we've seen that since season 2. But now with the new boss coming in and sort of Toby having to reprove himself again, Michelle is always, you know, she's always there for him. She's always sticking up for him, and I think that Toby in season 5 also has a lot more responsibility, especially with Michelle having been gone for the last little while, having her baby, and that I think that Toby has sort of taken a step up in the IIB and probably has quite a lot more responsibility now. So it's yeah, they still have each other's backs. Definitely.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, and I mean, you know, across the season, what kind of, I mean, what's the challenge? Obviously, is internal to a certain extent because of the new boss that's come into play in the season.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a common thread throughout the whole season, or what other kind of challenges do we face here?
It is. It definitely is. We're going to see that throughout the whole season, like the conflict with Becker and basically the whole IIB team.
Right.
You know, we do let Becker know Toby's contribution to the IIB very early on, so we don't play with that.
Right.
His reaction to it, however, is not the greatest, and it continues to be that way throughout the whole season. He definitely has his conflicts with what Toby does and how we work, and it's certainly not the way that he's used to working. And we see moments where you think, okay, maybe they're moving on, maybe they're developing. No, Becker still doesn't particularly like the way they do stuff. So we'll see that throughout the whole season, the conflict, which is a lot of fun to get to play. Yeah.
Well, I mean, conflict makes kind of these situations feel more realistic anyway. I mean, it almost was too easy before this.
Yeah, like Klein just sort of let us do whatever we wanted. It was no big deal. We were running the show, and now we have this guy who's like, no, I'm the boss.
Nice.
You guys have to do what I say.
Well, I mean, that's the other side too, is that your character kind of, she expected almost that maybe she would be the next head here.
That's true. You know, I think that Michelle was definitely next in line. I think she was definitely expecting to be asked.
Right.
I don't know necessarily that it would have been the right move for her. I think it probably would have been too much. But I think there's definitely some disappointment there. You know, she wishes that she would have been acknowledged a little bit. So there's a bit of tension with that as well. Right. Off the bat, yeah.
But I mean, and too, I wonder if it would have almost been, for the story, it might have almost been the wrong move if that had happened.
Yeah.
For Toby and her, because it would have been a strange kind of relationship
Definitely.
Although maybe that would be good too.
It could have been interesting.
Well, who knows?
You never know. Yeah, it could have been interesting. I think we wouldn't have had as many places to go with the story if Michelle had just sort of become the boss. And it wouldn't have left that much room to get to see her personal life or see the family dynamic. And then, of course, we wouldn't have had Becker to come in and sort of bark around at us and like keep us on our toes. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, what do you think is going to happen with her down the road? I mean, how do you see her as a parent and, you know, this kind of law enforcement person in, say, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm always curious to see what the writers come up with. I had no idea that we were going to jump ahead, right? That Michelle would have had her baby in season 5 and 7. You know, the baby is now 7 months old, and I had no idea that was how they were going to play it.
Right.
Although easier than me like running around with a fake belly, I guess.
Stomach, yeah.
Yeah, probably wouldn't have worked. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this, if it's, you know, we're lucky enough to continue on, to see how.
Do you have a hope for her though, maybe? Like some germ of some idea that you would like to see kind of.
I've always wanted to see. I have always wanted Michelle to be captured by the bad guy.
Yeah.
And Toby and the team has to come and save her. You know, like maybe Magnus comes back and like drags Michelle to some like horrible dungeon, and then the team has to save Michelle. I would love to see that.
Cool. So in other words, we're not going to get that this season, is what you're telling us? Maybe not.
We definitely see Michelle in very, you know, sticky situations, but we don't see her kidnapped in a dungeon in season 5. Hopefully for
season 6.
That's right.
Hey.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.